Nestled within a quiet suburban neighborhood was the Wallace residence, a quaint two-story house. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the Wallace family departed for a week-long vacation, leaving their eldest daughter, Emily, behind to tend to the house and their beloved dog, Max. The promise of solitude was alluring, but as the night deepened, a strange unease settled over Emily. The first night passed without incident, but as the clock ticked past midnight, Emily's sense of isolation intensified. Moonlight filtered through the curtains, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls. Max, usually a playful companion, whimpered and retreated to his bed, his hackles raised. Emily's unease grew when she caught sight of a figure lurking in the periphery of her vision outside the window. A man, tall and dressed in tattered clothing, seemed to watch the house from the shadows. Fear gnawed at her stomach, but she convinced herself it was her imagination playing tricks. On the second night, Emily heard faint whispers carried on the wind. She followed the sound to the front door, where she found footprints leading up to the porch. Her heart raced as she noticed a chilling message scrawled in blood-red letters on the door: alone, but never truly alone. Panic gripped her, and she locked every door and window, cursing herself for staying behind. The days blurred into nights, and Emily's sleep became fitful and fragmented. Max remained restless, refusing to leave Emily's side. As she explored the house, she found objects misplaced and whispered voices echoing through empty hallways. An old photograph album revealed a picture of a man who bore a striking resemblance to the figure outside. The resemblance chilled her to the bone. As the week progressed, the man's presence outside became more pronounced. Emily caught glimpses of him, his gaunt face always hidden beneath a hat. On the fifth night, the figure boldly approached the window, his hollow eyes locking onto hers. He raised a finger to his lips in a shushing gesture before fading back into the darkness. Emily's fear grew to a fever pitch. She contacted the police, who assured her they would increase patrols in the area. But the man's appearances continued, each encounter leaving her more terrified than the last. She was trapped in a nightmare, unable to escape the house she had thought would be her sanctuary. In a desperate attempt to find answers, Emily delved into the history of the house. She uncovered a long-forgotten tale of a man who had once lived there, driven mad by loss and heartbreak. The man's name was Edgar Holloway, and he had vanished mysteriously, leaving behind rumors of his haunting presence. The final night arrived, and Emily's nerves were frayed. She stood by the window, staring out into the darkness, determined to confront whatever entity haunted her. As the clock struck midnight, a chilling wind swept through the house. The figure emerged from the shadows, his ghastly visage now illuminated by the moon. Emily, her voice trembling, demanded to know what the man wanted. His response was a hollow, echoing laughter that seemed to reverberate through the walls. The room grew cold, and Emily could feel a malevolent energy enveloping her. Summoning her courage, Emily began to recite the tale of Edgar Holloway, weaving his tragic story into the air. As the words left her lips, the man's form flickered, his tortured expression shifting to one of anguish. Emily pleaded for him to find peace, to release her from the grip of fear that had held her captive. The man's form wavered, and a sense of heaviness lifted from the air. He reached out toward Emily, his hand hovering inches from her own. Then, with a final, mournful glance, he dissolved into the night, leaving behind a silence that was both eerie and profound. With the man's departure, the oppressive atmosphere that had plagued the Wallace residence began to dissipate. The following morning, Emily awoke to the gentle rays of the sun filtering through the curtains. The feeling of dread that had lingered for days had finally lifted. As the days turned into weeks, Emily reflected on the experience. She had confronted her deepest fears and, in doing so, had liberated herself from the shackles of her own imagination. The Wallace family returned, unaware of the harrowing events that had unfolded in their absence. And though the scars of that night would remain etched in Emily's memory, she found solace in knowing that she had faced the unknown head-on and emerged stronger on the other side. The tale of the haunted home alone would be shared with friends and family, a chilling reminder of the thin boundary between reality and the realm of the supernatural. It was a cold and stormy night. The wind howled through the trees, rattling the windows and creating an eerie symphony of creaking floorboards and distant whispers. Sarah stood alone in her old Victorian home, the only remaining occupant. Her family had left for a weekend trip, leaving her behind to study for her upcoming exams. Beneath the dimly lit chandelier, she found solace in her favorite armchair, engrossed in her books. However, an indescribable unease settled over her. The pounding rain on the roof seemed to merge with her racing heartbeat. She forced herself to dismiss the feeling, blaming it on the spooky ambience created by the weather. Hours passed, and Sarah's anxiety only grew stronger. Suddenly, a strange noise echoed from upstairs, a subtle scratching sound. She froze, her heart pounding louder than the rain. Could it be the wind? No. It was much closer than that. Determined to find the cause, she cautiously made her way up the creaking staircase. As she reached the landing, a cold draft sent shivers down her spine. The door to her parents' bedroom stood slightly ajar, slowly revealing the sinister darkness within. Sarah hesitated, her hand trembling as she pushed the door open. What she saw next sent a chill through her very soul. Reflections flickered in the antique mirrors that adorned her parents' bedroom walls. The lights in the room began to dim and flicker in sync with her racing heartbeat. Paralyzed with fear, Sarah tried to rationalize what she was witnessing, questioning her sanity as the shadows danced across the glass. Out of the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of a figure standing in the reflection behind her. She slowly turned, her breath hitching in her throat. Before her stood a ghostly apparition, dressed in white, its eyes void of life. Panic surged through Sarah's veins as she realized she was not alone. Images of spirits from the past flashed before Sarah's eyes. Ghosts of tragic events that had unfolded within the very walls of their home. The house seemed to have a dark secret, buried beneath layers of history and forgotten tales. Desperate for answers, Sarah decided to delve into its haunted past. Her research led her to a hidden room in the basement, concealed behind a bookshelf. Stepping across the threshold, she discovered a cryptic diary filled with the tormented scribblings of a previous occupant. The diary revealed a tale of betrayal, murder, and restless souls doomed to forever roam the house. As she immersed herself deeper into the diary's pages, the world around Sarah began to shift. The walls transformed into a labyrinth of shadows, and the air turned heavy with a sense of malevolence. She found herself trapped in a never-ending cycle, wandering through the house's endless corridors, haunted by the spirits that dwelled within. The apparitions grew stronger, their presence suffocating and menacing. They whispered chilling secrets, and their ghastly silhouettes crowded her vision. Trapped in a realm between the living and the dead, Sarah clung to the remnants of her sanity, pushing herself to uncover the truth that would break the curse. Determined to save herself and the restless souls trapped within her home, Sarah embarked on a perilous journey guided by the cryptic clues within the diary. She confronted the darkest secrets that had bound the spirits to this realm, unearthing their unfulfilled desires and seeking redemption for their tormented souls. Finally, guided by an ethereal voice, Sarah discovered the final piece of the puzzle. She stood before a forgotten grave, hidden in the depths of the house's garden where the first tragedy had occurred. As a storm of epic proportions raged overhead, she held her breath, desperate for an end to the nightmare. With trembling hands, she placed a long-lost heirloom upon the forgotten grave, offering solace to the vengeful spirit. In that moment, the storm ceased, and calm returned to the old Victorian house. The spirits finally found peace, leaving Sarah standing alone, the weight of their story etched in her heart. The sun broke through the clouds, casting its warm glow upon the freshly cleansed Victorian home. Sarah had survived the horrors of that stormy night, forever changed by her encounter with the supernatural. The house, free from its haunted legacy, embraced a newfound tranquility. Though the spirits had departed, Sarah's journey had left an indelible mark on her. She now understood the fragility of life and the importance of seeking closure and forgiveness. The old Victorian house had become a sanctuary, a testament to her resilience, a sacred space where both the living and the spirits could find solace. Being home alone and man in dark watching him. Once upon a time, in a quiet little town called Elmwood, there lived a young woman named Emily. Emily was known for her independent nature and her love for all things mysterious and thrilling, particularly horror stories. Little did she know that soon, she would find herself starring in her very own nightmare. One stormy night, when the rain beat against the windows and the thunder roared through the sky, Emily found herself home alone. Her parents had gone on a business trip, leaving her to take care of the house. With nothing but the sound of raindrops hitting the roof and the faint glow of a candle, Emily settled herself on the couch to watch her favorite horror movie. As the movie played, Emily couldn't help but immerse herself in the spine-tingling atmosphere. Shadows danced around the room, casting eerie silhouettes on the walls. Strange creaks and groans echoed through the house, causing her heart to race, but she dismissed it all as her imagination. Suddenly, the power blinked and the room was plunged into darkness. Emily let out a startled gasp, feeling a chill creep up her spine. She thought about lighting another candle but decided to venture into the basement to find the flashlight instead. As she descended the creaky staircase, she couldn't shake off the sense of unease that gnawed at her. The basement was dimly lit by the flickering light bulb, casting eerie shadows in every corner. Emily could hear whispers, soft murmurs that made her blood run cold. Trying to ignore the fear building within her, she reached the storage room where the flashlight was kept. However, as she searched through boxes and old furniture, she felt an icy hand gripping her ankle. Terror consumed her as she struggled to break free from its grasp, but the grip grew tighter, squeezing her like a vice. With one final burst of adrenaline, she managed to pull her leg away, feeling her skin burn where the hand had touched her. Leaving the flashlight behind, she sprinted back up the stairs, clasping her hand over her mouth to stifle her screams. In the safety of the living room, Emily desperately tried to contact her parents, but her phone had suddenly lost all signal. Panic set in as she realized the disconcerting stillness in the house. The storm outside had even quieted, leaving an eerie silence that made her head spin. Hesitant but determined to find answers, Emily decided to investigate the strange occurrences. She tiptoed through the house, every sound amplified in the silence. As she reached the hallway, she noticed the walls, once adorned with happy family pictures, now replaced with distorted, sinister portraits. Attempting to flee the nightmares that unfolded around her, Emily rushed towards the staircase, but suddenly the stairs turned into a steep, never-ending abyss. The once familiar hallway transformed into a labyrinth, leading to nowhere but darkness. Confusion and terror gripped Emily, her only thought being survival. As she wandered through this twisted maze, she stumbled upon a room that seemed untouched by the chaos. The door creaked open, revealing a room filled with dusty old furniture and a sense of eerie familiarity. It was her parents' room, but bathed in darkness, the air thick with despair. In the center of the room stood a distorted figure, its presence emanating evil. The figure turned towards Emily, revealing a pale face and empty, soulless eyes. Frozen in fear, Emily could only watch as the figure advanced slowly, its hands reaching out towards her in a twisted mockery of a hug. A scream ripped through the air as Emily finally managed to break free from the terror's grip. She ran with all her might, blinded by fear and desperation. She fled through the labyrinth, feeling its menacing walls closing in on her. Just as Emily felt her strength waning, a gleam of moonlight guided her towards the front door. Bursting out into the stormy night, she found herself alone on the desolate street. The rain washed away the horror from her face and cleansed her soul of the nightmarish ordeal she had endured. To this day, Emily can still recall the haunting whispers and chilling touch of that night. The horror she experienced in her own home has left an indelible mark on her soul, causing her to question the thin veil that separates our world from the one beyond. For Emily, the line between fact and fiction has been forever blurred, reminding her that sometimes the most terrifying stories are the ones that unfold in our own homes.